Now that we've looked at some jQuery behaviors in stage 1, we move on to stage 2 where we're going to add jQuery UI elements. So the behaviors actions panel are pretty common scripted actions. For more complex interactive objects such as these multi-level navigation menus and tab panels, we require some more coding for these to make these common objects more complex. The advantage of Dreamweaver is that we have a library where the code is already existing and we don't really have to know the code for these jQuery UI elements. So we're going to create a JavaScript-based accordion using the insert panel. So I have my index.html page open for the cars site, and under the insert panel you want to select the jQuery UI, and I've already done this, but where you have the accordion panel goes here element, go ahead and insert your cursor there and delete the placeholder text. Then click on accordion to insert an accordion into that element. And you should have a jQuery accordion element that looks like this. You have a section head and then a content area. I'm in design view. Once you insert the accordion, you want to save your file. So go to File, Save, and again, I've already done that to save time. Once you save the file, you will see a menu asking you if you want to update all of the attached files. So you want to go ahead and click on OK. So with this jQuery UI element, there are a lot of files, and you'll see once you save it, those files are going to pop up here. And let's take a look at that. There are 3 CSS style sheets and then 2 JS JavaScript files. So all the coding is contained within those files, and Dreamweaver will automatically upload them into a jQuery assets folder into your local root folder. Go ahead and expand that jQuery assets folder, and you can see all your files inside. We're going to click away from the accordion object to deselect it, and then move your cursor back over, and you can see that blue heading there, and that's a widget. So if you click on that widget, it selects the entire accordion element. When that object is selected, you can look at the properties panel to see all the options that you have. So it's given an ID attribute of accordion. There's the panels that gives you a list of categories or headers, and you can move the arrows up and down and scroll through the sections, and you can add and subtract panel sections. And the active field, that tells you which panel is going to show up first. So 0 is going to be the first item, and then down to 1, 2, and so forth. And then in the event field, you can select the trigger. So the default is click. So if the user clicks on the panel, that's how it will open up. And you can also select mouse over. We're going to leave it at click here. Then for the height style, you have 3 different options for the height of the overall accordion, and we're going to go ahead and select content here, and that's going to adjust the height according to the content. You can also check disabled if you want to prevent the user from changing the visible section of the accordion. You can make it collapsible so that the user will collapse the active accordion section without expanding another one. And you can change the animation of how the accordion opens. And we're going to leave it at the default of swing here, so it's going to swing open. And then you have some icons which determines the type of, or defines the image that appears to the left of the text in the headers and the active expanded headers. Select section 1 in your accordion and type the heading upcoming events. For the section after it, we're going to call that regional clubs. And section 3, contact us. In the Files panel, open in your resources the Content Accordion HTML page, and that's just going to give you the content to fill into your accordion. We're going to paste the related content for these unordered lists. So under the events list, I'm going to highlight it and copy it, go back to the index page and select content 1 and just paste that text right in there. I can switch to live view so I can see that better, and it's already styled according to the attached CSS style sheet. And then go ahead and fill in, go back to design view to fill in the rest of the content for the next two sections. If I click on the I next to the header, that will open up that panel so that I can access it. So now I have pasted all the related content into each section. In live view, I can select specific text using the code navigator. I'm going to select I want to select this upcoming events header, and I'm going to click on Command Option and then click to bring up the code navigator. So this gives me the code, and I can scroll through here to see all the code that has been applied to that element. In the Windows format, it's going to be Alt-click, and I want to select the sidebar selector at the bottom of the list. I'm going to click on that, and that will automatically bring up the code in the CSS style sheet. And I can scroll through and find the sidebar ID selector with the properties attributed to it. I want to bring up the CSS designer and select the sidebar ID selector, and then you can adjust the properties using the CSS designer panel. Locate the background color property. The background color is set to white, but we want to disable that. And I've already done that here, but what you want to do is hover to the right of the background color, and you'll see two options: disable CSS property or remove CSS property. And mine says enable because I've already disabled it. And once you disable the background color, then you'll see some gray text in the code, and then you will see a slight change with the rounded corners now showing up in the accordion. Command Option click or Alt click in the Windows platform and select the upcoming events again, so to bring up the code navigator. And this time we want to look for the font size property. Properties that are lower in the list are going to be overridden by the same property that's higher in the list. So for example, in the sidebar tag selector, ID selector, if there is a set font size, because it's at the bottom of the list, if there's another item, so here we have a class selector UI widget with a font size of 0.9 or whatever this font size that's attributed to it, it's going to override the font size in this ID selector that's lower on the list. I'm going to click on this UI widget to bring up the code, and you can see there is a lot of code here. In CSS Designer, we want to select that item, the UI widget, and then in Properties, select Text, and you can change that font size to 0.9. So I think that it was set at 1.1 M, and we want to change it to 0.9. So the M size is helpful because it's not a set pixel or point size. So the M size is scalable, and about 1 M equals about 12 points. Now open the code navigator for any of the list items that you see in the accordion to bring up the code navigator, and click on the UI widget content. Again, I'm going to look it up in the CSS Designer. And this selector uses CSS shorthand to define a gray background color and a gradient background image. And you can look for that in the code here. We're going to click the value field for the background property and change the background color to FFF to define white as the new value, and this will replace the previous value. Now open the code navigator for the list items again and look for the UI accordion content. And I'm going to select it in CSS Designer. And in the Properties section, under Layout, I'm going to change the padding to 0.5 em for the left and right padding. Go to Design View to turn Live View off, and then turn Live View back on. And that just kind of resets the size of the accordion since we made that change. When you make changes that affect the height of the content in the accordion panel, such as changing the font size, you may have to toggle Live View off and on to show the new height of the object. You can click on the other two sections to see how they behave in Live View. Now you can export your site definition named cars.ste in your cars folder and remove the site from Dreamweaver.